Welcome to the Awesemo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal EMac coming to you with one Chris Randone as we get ready for, wait for it, Army Day. It's March 4th. See what I did there? The puns just make themselves. In any event, we've got, a 9-gamer here, Chris. How has it been? We just finished up a live before lock together.
Man, honestly, it feels like I'm still on this slate because it's still going on right now. So I don't know, man. Hey, but you know what? We're only like an hour and a half into this slate, and we're already back at it for tomorrow. We are committed, man. We are committed.
Absolutely, and it's a 9-gamer. I just had to look that up. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be another busy one here for Wednesday. We've got a few teams on a back-to-back, including Boston. Let's see. Sorry, Boston, Brooklyn, Minnesota, New Orleans, Washington. I think that covers everybody. So it's got a little bit of injury news we'll have to watch for already. In Boston, we have looks like Kemba Walker may be a little dinged up or having a little knee soreness, and you said Gordon Hayward went out already.
Yeah, Gordon Hayward just got a knee contusion at the end of the second quarter, so probably will be on the injury report tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised, given that it's a back-to-back, that he might probably sit out. That game has a lot of injuries. I mean,
They're
that
going against Cleveland, so this could
yeah,
be good for whoever's healthy.
Cleveland already announced that half the team is out. So, this game's probably going to bring us a lot of value. And right now, Carson Edwards has been playing some extra minutes tonight. Wanamaker's in there, playing not too bad against Brooklyn, but I guess we'll see by the end of this game kind of who stepped up, and maybe probably look at Marcus Smart, because I don't think Kemba Walker plays tomorrow either.
Yeah, that's kind of my guess. We already know for Cleveland, Darius Garland's going to be out with a groin injury into the weekend. Andre Drummond, unlikely to return before the weekend with the a calf injury. Alonzo Kinney is still out with a foot injury, and then Dante Exum sprained an ankle. He's a couple weeks away. So the Cleveland guys are kind of a mess here. Why am I missing Tristan Thompson? There we go. Tristan Thompson still questionable with the knee injury, but that's a little bit of an upgrade, I guess, because he missed the last one. Yikes. Starting off with here, we'll kind of go game by game. We only have the over-unders in 3 of them. Again, we're recording this about 9:15 on Super Tuesday here, and we have partial information, but that's okay. Things can change dramatically, so we'll just hit the high notes and walk you through a nice foundational look at things here. Reminder, we are brought to you by SuperDraft, which is the revolutionary DFS site. No salaries. It's all about the multiplier. They have some fun scoring systems we'll talk about in a bit, but players get a multiplier on their base fantasy points. So if you're LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, etc., Nikola Jokic, you got a 1 multiplier. If you're Shake Milton, you have like a 1.8 multiplier. If you're Darius Garland, it's usually 1.7, though he's out. But that's what we're going to be looking at here. So you want to find rotations that have changed, situations that have changed, injuries, etc., and that's how you leverage things. So you try to figure out what the field's going to do, what's going to happen with the multiplier, and then your risk of ruin or risk of reward, however you would like to say that, comes into play. So in our first game here, we kind of nibbled at it a bit, but Boston, we should see Jason Tatum back from his illness. Jaylen Brown looking good on Tuesday night. Nice matchup for them going against Cleveland. Cleveland, nobody really exciting. Maybe Colin Sexton, perhaps. But Boston, even if they're missing a few guys, still a decent defense, and on the back-to-back, still a good team coached by Brad Stevens there. So we'll have to see what shakes out in this one, is my best guess. Anything you want to add? Or shall we look at the other 8 games we have?
Yeah, I mean, there will be value in this game, which is going to be nice. So I would say from a first look, Carson Edwards is basically minimum price. I think even Tremont Waters has gotten into the game tonight, or excuse me, Javante Green, and Wanamaker, who is actually putting up some production tonight, believe it or not. So you're going to find some guys here. And if Tatum doesn't play, that's going to be real interesting, because then, I mean, it's going to come down to a ton of usage rolling through Smart and Brown, which is it probably will be chalk, but it'll be good chalk. So, but aside from that game, though, on the other side, if you're going to probably look at Kevin Porter, look at Larry Nance, especially with the big men out. So, yeah, man, I mean, this game right here, it's weird because Cleveland has been a team that people have been winning off of lately, believe it or not. And they're just priced too cheap, but they fit in and they fit the mold of lineup construction. So I'll probably be on that same train tomorrow night.
All right, the next one, OKC, who is on a back-to-back going into Detroit, taking on the Pistons. We do not have an over-under for that because we are waiting to see what is going to happen in the OKC game. Of course, you've had, let's see, Danilo Gallinari been dealing with a sore ankle. Be curious to see if he ends up playing on the back-to-back here in what should be a game that they should be able to handle. Relatively depleted Detroit team. Detroit on the other side, looking for their injuries. They will be without Derrick Rose, who is expected to potentially return in April. At that point, the season will mostly be over. You've got Luke Kennard, who's going to be out for another week and a half. And then you've got Bruce Brown, still doubtful, unlikely to return before the weekend. And now Brandon Knight, who was the nice sneaky play the last couple games, coming off the bench, getting about 25 minutes. He's dealing with a sore right quad, so he is questionable. What do you want to do with the first look at this one, Chris?
I mean, are we okay with talking about Derek Walton Jr. here? Because it's going to be pretty cheap. With those injuries that happened last game against Sacktown, came in 13 minutes, put up 10 fantasy points. You would have to think that given his price point, hey, if he gets in there and he plays 24, 25 minutes, I mean, why not, right? It's probably going to be something that you're going to want to look at if the value opens up. OKC side, they're on a back-to-back.
One issue we'll have to see with Derek Walton, his contract expired, so they need to.
Did it?
Yeah, they'll need to sign it. Is he on a 2-way or a 10-day? I'll have to look and see.
He's on a 10-day.
Oh, so if he's on a 10-day, they can still sign him for one more. It's when you get that third one that they have to sign you for the rest of the season, but they may choose to do so anyway, just so they have bodies. But there you go.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I mean, he's definitely someone you can consider. And then for the OKC side, they're on a back-to-back, so it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do with Gallinari, with just the minutes of maybe Paul. But I would think that Alexander and Schroeder, still get that kind of heavy workload. But Christian Wood is also questionable. So, I guess he's probable now, but I don't mind him. He's been very fantasy relevant as of late. And I guess Steven Adams, he is somewhat cheap. I feel like this is a matchup that maybe he can excel in. But I will say this, that on a back-to-back, I don't think that his minutes will be high, given that it hasn't been high on back-to-backs prior to this. So I don't know, man. This game right here is kind of ugly to me as a first look. I don't think I want to really kind of go here, except if there's some small value in Derek Walton, to be honest with you.
And that makes sense. I'm just double checking here. He had bounced around a little bit with the Clippers, went to the Hawks, was waived by the Hawks. He's played with Miami at various points, but yeah, it was a 10-day contract, so we'll see if he ends up on that, a second one there. All right, on to the next one. A little bit more fun with this one. You've got Indiana at Milwaukee. Milwaukee should be relatively at full strength. They had Chris Middleton back in the last game, so everybody should be good to go there. We do have an over-under here of 222. Milwaukee home favorites by 11. Indiana, of course, has been a little bit up and down. They've been having their own struggles reacclimating Victor Oladipo into the fold. He's dealing with the sore knee as he works his way back from that ruptured quad that cost him the better part of a year. But everybody else is healthy here. Well, let's start off with it. Malcolm Brogdon, he's very familiar with the shooting backdrop there in Milwaukee.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Revenge!
You think? I mean, you would have to. I mean, trust me. No, I mean, honestly.
They didn't want to pay him, so.
Yeah, but they couldn't. I mean, it's difficult, especially with the rotation that they had. So, and I mean, he's a legitimate starter, man. He can't be coming off the bench. And their rotation is a little bit weird if it was him, Giannis, and Middleton, in my opinion. But I will say this. He is 7K on DraftKings. It is a little bit tougher to get there. However, he's been playing great. And logging in these minutes, if Oladipo doesn't play, I like him way more. Now, he is questionable, Oladipo, but just the usage and just the ball handling, it runs through Brogdon. And as we saw earlier in the season with Oladipo out, he just produces at a higher fantasy rate. So I'm okay with Brogdon here, but I like him even more, like I said, with Oladipo out. Giannis, man, goes 40-20, and then he just has a complete dud against Miami.
Hey, it's Miami. They are a good
It is Miami, and a great defensive team. It was a back-to-back. They had to travel, so I know that there's a couple little nuances there that we can take into consideration. But Giannis is Giannis, and you gotta, go with the Greek freak whenever you can. Put up 60 DK points last time against them, so Sabonis, Warren, I'm okay with all these guys. Now, I don't know if they'll be priorities yet because obviously we have to see for a lot of stuff to come out. But there are fantasy options in this game. And, if you want to look towards maybe Holiday, if Oladipo's out, he's cheap. I don't mind that either. And Justin Holiday, if you want to get sneaky in a GBP and do stars and scrubs, that's someone else that you can take in consideration.
All right, that hits us through essentially the first 3 games. They're all 7 o'clock games. This will actually be the 3rd time that Milwaukee and Indiana have squared off. Indiana actually went there in game 1 of this series. Game 2 was, was it like 2 weeks ago maybe, or was it before the break? I've started to lose track. That used to be kind of the line of demarcation before the All-Star break and after the All-Star break, but enough time has passed now that I can't remember exactly which games were before or after. But in any event, let's head on to these later games here, the 7:30 games. We've got Utah and New York. New York is hosting Utah. Utah 7.5-point road favorites, 220 over under in this one. We have Mitchell Robinson is questionable. He had a sore hamstring during Monday night's win, so we'll have to see what happens with him. Dennis Smith Jr. still in the concussion protocol, and he is out for Wednesday. You have Reggie Bullock, who is sick. He missed Monday's game. We'll have to see if he comes back, and that's about it for the injuries here. With regards to who or what do we like, I think it's going to have to start with Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, but I don't exactly hate Julius Randle. This is a matchup a little more suited for him. There'll be another fellow big. Yes, it'll be someone clogging the lane and someone he has to compete with for rebounds, but this is a little bit better for him than what he's seen recently. What do you like here at the top?
Oof, man. Utah is just like I had Mitchell last game. I really thought he was in a great spot against Cleveland, and obviously there was nothing there. But I mean, New York's been playing great, right, since this coaching change, and it seems like the rotations have been better. RJ Barrett has played pretty good over the last 3 games, and the last game against Houston was very surprising. 42 DK points, 18 shot attempts, which had been his highest, I think, for like the last 3 or 4 games, if I'm not mistaken. So more involved in the offense, which is always nice, and seeing that aggressive approach. Randall is someone that you can always consider. The last 3 or 4 games, hasn't played heavy minutes essentially outside of 1 game, but the amount of shot attempts, the amount of times he gets to the free throw line, 44, 40, and 52 DK points in his last 3 games. I do like Randall in this spot, and I know people might think, well, defensively, Utah's there. Utah hasn't been there defensively as of late. They've struggled, and they struggled a lot against Cleveland this last game.
So just to cut in, and just so people understand how bad they've been, over their last 15 games, I know this because I looked up Minnesota today. Minnesota is allowing 117 points per 100 possessions. So are the Jazz. That's worst in the league. That is a dramatic change from anything we've seen.
Honestly, it's huge. And, Randall's very great at scoring. And he can really take advantage of this. I mean, we saw what Larry Nance did and Kevin Love did together as a unit this past game against Utah. So I'm okay with that. I'm also thinking that on the Jazz side of the ball, I do like Mitchell, and I'll continue to like him, but he is 8,100 on DK, so I don't think I'm going to be able to pay that at this time around. And then Gobert, coming off a pretty solid game, he is 8K, but given what's on this slate, I just don't think that I'm going to get there. So ownership-wise, though, I think no one will really be on the Knicks as much, and that's why maybe I might like them a little bit. But, outside of that, I don't know, EMac. I think that's pretty much it. What about you?
No, that's kind of where it's going to be. We do have 18 teams in action, so always hard to see a little bit tonight. Do have sort of a compressed schedule. I mentioned we had three 7 o'clock games, we have three 7:30 games, an 8, a 9:30, and a 10. So it's going to be a lot of moving parts there right before a lock because we should have the majority of the information for the first 6 games, if not the first 7. So we know that if something crazy happens, and with the number of teams on a back-to-back, something very well could, that is when things will really get put in motion. Next one we have here is Memphis at Brooklyn. Boy, Memphis. I don't know. I can't decide. Do we say Memphis disappointed us, or because they destroyed? Uh, uh, who are they playing? Atlanta, or did Atlanta disappoint us because they allowed themselves to get just crushed on Monday night? That was
Nah, man. We
that was
can't.
like the just I don't know that the game could have been more disappointing. Gorgie Jang led Memphis with 17 points. Trey Young had 19. This game had a 241 over under. It ended up at doing some math here, 215. So it fell about 25 points short. You just had all sorts of craziness. You had Jonas Valanciunas, probably the best option amongst the Memphis starters, went 15 and 15. Ja Morant only needed to play 24 minutes, 13 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. Um, Tyus Jones ended up playing 19 minutes, but he dropped nearly 40 fantasy points. He had, again, 19 minutes. He had 15 points, 9 assists, and 4 steals. This was just an absolute demolishing of Atlanta, who had been playing pretty well at home. So again, we never know exactly what's going to happen in these games, but goodness gracious, you got one team scoring, but it was their backups that were doing all the scoring. So, what do? We reset the clock. We reset everything. We get Memphis. They're on a road game here, but but Brooklyn is on a back to back. Slight advantage for me from Memphis here. But what do you want to target? Jonas, I would think, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm okay with him. I think I kind of like the price point of John Morant at 7,200. I'm okay with it. Um, he's going to be playing heavy minutes now, given that they're also on this playoff push and trying to make this last playoff spot in the West. Josh Jackson was very interesting this last game, and I mean, I think basically his recency bias, maybe people might go ahead and invest into that at 4,700. I get it. I just don't know if I'm there yet. I could pay 78 for Giannis. I'm okay with it. And the Brooklyn side, it's always Dinwiddie or Levert. I mean, really, you're not getting much with any others. It's a hit or miss, and technically, I don't really like to go that route a lot of the time. So, but other than that, man, I mean, Brooklyn's going to be on the back to back, so it's going to be curious to see kind of what the minutes will be like for Dinwiddie and Levert. But outside of that, I don't think I like anyone else. I don't think I'm okay with. I don't think I want to go there with Dylan Brooks in this matchup. I like Morant. I like Giannis. Other than that, yeah, I'm good to go. There's
All
not much.
right.
There's not much in this game that really stands out.
Very true. And Brooklyn's such a limited squad because the center split the 48 minutes between DeAndre Jordan and Jared Allen. We mentioned the 2 guards, but then you've got Torian Prince. You've got Garrett Temple. These guys all just kind of get in each other's way when it comes to fantasy production.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, next one we got is Orlando at Miami. We do have Aaron Gordon, who is questionable. He missed the last game with the knee soreness, but he was coming off a phenomenal stretch. He's been playing a lot more power forward with the various other injuries they've had. And if you've listened to or watched Josh and Adam and Lofty, they talk a lot about how Aaron Gordon, and this is for a couple seasons, is just better suited to be a power forward. And this is kind of the common thought within not just fantasy basketball circles, but basketball circles. It seems like everybody except Orlando wants to do this. But heading into the San Antonio game where he started to experience the knee soreness, he had played 36, 41, 41, 41, 35, 43, 36 minutes. That's a heavy, heavy minutes load. I expect we'll see him back, but I don't know if it's kind of like Bradley Beal after he missed a couple games with his heavy minute workload. They backed off it for a while. But he had been putting up some phenomenal numbers, including his first career triple double. He had just been just absolutely racking up the fantasy points. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In those 6 games, he topped 52 fantasy points 4 times, and the other 2 were 42 and 45. So that's just amazing. I just don't think we're going to see him crest over 34 minutes.
I agree. I don't think so either.
So that means, what about Nikolai Vucevic going against Miami? Not the easiest of matchups. I think these teams have met a couple times. Let me see if I can pull that up real quickly. Vooch, of course, has a decent inside-out game, but Miami, very, very difficult matchup for most teams. We just talked about how they performed well against Milwaukee. I don't know what I want to do. If Gordon is out, I like Vooch. If Gordon's in, I don't like anybody. Only because I think the production will be split amongst a handful.
Yeah, Vooch is priced in an area where you can get Sabonis, Bam Adebayo, Gobert, Porzingis. So all these guys, which I kind of like, because then that kind of spreads out ownership sometimes, where it's not heavily concentrated on one and there's not that much of a gap. So given ownership, that's kind of where I'll put my attention on who's going to be higher than who and things of that nature. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm okay with Vooch. 8,500. I think that's more than fair.
So this will
And
be the fourth game. This will validate it for you a little bit. We don't know what's going to happen, but this will be the fourth game they've played. In the prior 3, he's averaged 18 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists for 44 fantasy points in 33 minutes per game. It's solid.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, 8,500. If he was 9K or above, obviously we would probably have a different conversation. But yeah, I'm okay with it. I can roll with that.
And that's right in line with his season averages too. So it's helpful. It's helpful. All right, let's look at, well, kind of say the same thing about Miami. Orlando, not the easiest team on defense. They're not as good as they were earlier in the season, but they make you work for it, and they're not exactly a high-paced team. So when we look at Miami, it's going to be Bam Adebayo, maybe Jimmy Butler, but there's so many other options on the slate. We'll have to see. Maybe we get, I don't want to say get lucky, but perhaps one of the guards is out, and that elevates either Nunn or Dragic or Butler himself. So we'll just have to find out. Chicago at Minnesota. Minnesota here is on the back-to-back, so we don't have the information yet here with regards to the point spread and the over-under. But we are seeing D'Angelo Russell, rightfully so, creep towards that 5-figure mark. He's still got a little ways to go, but his usage has been approaching 30 since he has joined the Timberwolves here. I will say this. He did sit out their last back-to-back for maintenance. Now, he sat out on the front end of it, so it would not shock me if he sits out at home here. It seems like Minnesota's content to lose. They don't know if or when Karl-Anthony Towns is coming back, so why risk getting the guy hurt that they just traded for to appease Karl-Anthony Towns? So it wouldn't shock me if he sat. Let's assume he doesn't for our particular analysis here. If he plays, he's got to be one of the better plays on the slate against a team now missing Kendrick, or what's his name, Dunn, for a while, which has really, really showed some cracks in their backcourt defense. Their front court's getting a little bit healthy. Chicago, that is. Wendell Carter Jr.'s back. We probably might see Lauri Markkanen, maybe. That just gives them more bodies, because those guys aren't the best defenders. Their key defenders were their backcourt, and that's not the case without Dunn.
Yeah, I think for me, I always dislike rostering a guy coming back off an injury if it has to do anything with lower body. It just kind of scares me. One, because they could tweak it, and then 2, you're just really unsure about the minutes unless the coach is communicative about that pre-tip, and so that we have a good understanding if he has a really good shot of getting there or not. But given that, let's say he does play and he gets 28 minutes, can he get there against a really horrible defense, a high-paced game? I think he could. I don't think ownership will be on him. So if you're looking at it from like a leverage standpoint in GBP format, yeah, I think that's okay.
All right. We both talked about Beasley quite a bit on Tuesday night's show. He's coming in at $6,000. If Russell's out, it would be a shock for him to not get something in the low 20s for field goal attempts. If Russell does play in this one, he'll probably get 17, 18, 19. So I kind of like him once again either way, assuming he comes out with his health intact after playing in New Orleans on Tuesday night. Do you like Beasley? Do you like anybody after Beasley?
Always love Beasley, man, and they got his price up a little bit here at 6K, but he's been playing well tonight so far against the Pelicans. I mentioned
He's
it on
9 of 10 from the field with 21 points.
I loved him tonight. He was priced way too low.
Playing well is like he's just shy of perfection.
Dude, I'm actually kicking myself right now because I made a switch from Beasley to Powell right before we were locking up on live before lock. So in some of my lineups, that's probably going to hurt me, which it's a little bit of a sore spot right now. But I do like Beasley, man. I said it on live before lock. His usage rate, assist rate has been all up, especially with Towns out since this trade and him on the floor with D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell just makes him better too. So fantasy purpose wise, his price point and the way that he's producing, you got to go ahead and take advantage of that while he's still cheap. So he's going to take shots. He's going to play defense, and I'm okay with it.
All right. On the other side here, Chicago, a whole lot of You can kind of look at their guards. It seems like most everybody except for Dunn is healthy. Let me get to an injury page here real quick. Don't want to bury the lead. EMac. Zach LaVine still out with a quad. Should be out through the weekend. So that is important. Let's see. The Markkanen News says he hopes to return Wednesday. He has participated in a full contract workout with the G League. These are courtesy of, who is it? RotoWire, I think, does the blurbs here for DK. So that's what I'm looking at. Chris Dunn's still out. I don't know why I called him Kendrick Dunn, because I'm probably confusing it with Kendrick Nunn. And now we're talking about different sports. You've got Hutchison is going to be out Monday, potentially could be back before the weekend, but they're not. He had a cortisone shot in his shoulder, so we'll have to see. Luke Cornett's still out. So they got a bunch of guys out, but they've got a few guys that have come back. So Daniel Gafford's there, Denzel Valentine's in the mix, Otto Porter Jr. came back, was on a bit of a minutes limit. Wendell Carter Jr. came back, also on a bit of a minutes limit. You got Satoransky, you got Kobe White. So you got a lot of just moving parts here. Great matchup. I think the dust will settle a little bit for us as we get towards lock tomorrow, because I think we can look at some of these guys. I just don't know which ones.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's so hard sometimes, like when we're 21 hours away from lock, that's like we need to know so much more information. But at a first look, it's always nice because we do have a good of an understanding, at least originally, with some of the guys that we know will play. But yeah, I want to say that this slate is interesting because outside of Giannis, you don't really have any other star. Now, Dame will be back. And so, he'll be on a minutes limit, I'm assuming. And so, but outside of that, though, and Doncic, it's like you have Doncic and you have Giannis. And the last couple slates, if you've avoided the stars, it's kind of paid off. So how will people approach that tomorrow is kind of like what I'm interested in, because sometimes we feel like we have to force them into lineups because of the FOMO or fear of missing out because they're projected higher, the ceiling's high. But in reality, that salary that restricts us from really having a more balanced lineup takes away from us being optimal. So that's kind of like what's interesting to me on some of these slates, especially when it's a 9-1 like this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just tons of moving parts. New Orleans at Dallas. No over-under here, assuming that Porzingis and Luka are both back. Of course, you've got everybody going in the New Orleans game right now as they wrap things up. There's a minute left in the third quarter, and the teams have combined for 206 points. They are not disappointing whatsoever.
You think it's going to hit?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's got to.
It's close enough that it should stay tight. Just looking at the box score, you've got 26 minutes from Holiday, 25 from Ball, 23 from Zion, 27 from Ingram. Give them each another 7. So we get up to 34, 30, 32, 33 for baseline, and they could get even a little more than that. That's the hard part. So I'm using that to set up this part of the discussion. We don't know what's going to happen. But I will say on the back-to-backs, we haven't seen Zion play in a back-to-back yet. There just hasn't been one for him. Let's see. So New Orleans plays this game in Dallas. That's the Wednesday game. They play at home on Friday against Miami. Then they go on Sunday, so they get 48 hours off there. They go back to Minnesota to finish up this this home and home, and then they get Monday and Tuesday off, and Wednesday they appear in Sacramento. Then Friday it's Utah. Then Saturday it's their next back-to-back next weekend. Utah to LA. So I just want to say they've got a road trip coming up, a lot of travel. The next three of the next 4 games are on ESPN. So all these moving parts here just make us wonder, does anybody get a night off? We'll have to see what they're going to do with Zion. I don't know. Chris had a good point on the deep dive, or the live before lock today after the deep dive, where we're saying they're in the mix for that playoff spot. They need Memphis to kind of falter a little bit, but they're only 3 games back. So they're very much alive with that scrum of teams in the Western Conference, where you've got Portland, San Antonio, and the Pelicans all within. Games are still going right now, so all within, let's just call it 3.5 games. Sacramento there, but they're going to falter. They're missing too many of their guys. So it's kind of interesting. I think they're alive. If I had to pick somebody, I think I would go with Portland to make it, but they're only half a game ahead right now of the Pellies. So, and that's just in the loss column. So basically, they're statistically tied. Yeah.
I mean,
long story. Trying to find any edge here. I don't know what's going to happen with Zion. Could he play 28 minutes? Sure. Is he going to play 35 minutes? I don't think so. Just guessing. And I'm more pessimistic about this stuff, but they've got a lot of important games
right now. It's the lowest of the starters going into the fourth quarter. So if I had to guess, he'll probably play 29, 30 minutes here unless they go into OT. But I mean, I just, if they win tonight too, it's like they'll be 2 games back, 2.5 games back now. Yeah, I mean, they're going to want to try to make this push. And, what better way than to have, one of your best players on the court. So
absolutely. Absolutely. But makes it a little tough to analyze this one. Assuming everybody's healthy, like the usual, basically the starting 4. You could probably actually throw in Hayward or Favors in this one, make it a starting 5. Kind of on Hart. From the Dallas side, really like Luka. I think this is a fantastic spot for Porzingis, assuming he plays. Everybody else is an afterthought or a late slate only play. How are you reading our second to last game here?
I love Luka. This is going to be a way too good of a matchup to say no to. He has been disappointing though. Probably 3 of the last 4 games as far as expectation and hitting his price point as far as value is concerned. But I mean, I do like him. He probably will be a priority on probably single entries, depending on how things shake out. But I do like him for GBP play. 10.9 is getting there pretty high. He is the second highest player on this slate. So what will people do? Will they try to roster Giannis and Luka, try to go one or the other? So I always kind of, with the stars, I always play the ownership approach, kind of see where they're at and see if I can get an edge on the field. But I do like Luka here. I do love everyone from the Pelicans. I mean, honestly, the way that they're playing, the way that the tempo of this game that could possibly be, I'm okay with it. Even on a back-to-back, I'm not going to let that try to, take me out of my mindset of where I want to be in this game. And the only thing that is unfortunate is that I think, Porzingis coming back now, it does take away a little bit. But I think this is a good matchup for Porzingis as well, in my opinion. I think, with him and Doncic on the floor, I think this will be a shootout. I'm curious to see what the over-under is. If I had to guess, I'm thinking it's like 234, 235. But all the top guys in this game, I will try to spread out and put in the lineups for sure. I don't think I'm big on any of the lower tier guys. I don't think I'm on Kleber. I'm going to pass on Cauley Stein, Smith, maybe a little bit of love for Hardaway, but he is 6,500, and I don't think I can pay for 6,500 with Doncic and Porzingis back on the floor.
Yeah, that's kind of the kicker. As soon as Porzingis is off, it's a different story. Same thing with Doncic, but with both of them in, it makes it very difficult with where everybody is at. So now we're on the last game of the night. You've got Washington at Portland. We don't have the over-under yet because we're waiting to see what happens with Mr. Damian Lillard. He is expected back, as Chris said. CJ McCollum is 8,600. You got Washington coming up from Sacramento. Their game is not yet tipped off. It tips off in about 5 minutes here. So we'll assume everybody is healthy for this one. That means I like Beal. It means I like Davis Bertans in this matchup, and I absolutely love Hassan Whiteside.
I mean, Portland's gonna just, oh my god, they're gonna score so many points. Thank God Lillard's playing EMac because I'm so sick of the McCollum situation. My god, dude. And he's still, if Lillard wasn't playing tomorrow and he was priced at 8,600 like he is right now, I would be furious because it's like they should have had him at 10K. They should have just had him at 10K plus because he was going to just shoot almost every possession. He was going to have all the assists, and they still didn't price him appropriately, so it just made it easy chalk. And I mean, like last game against Orlando, I was kind of over it. I'm like, man, can we please just go ahead and make him 10K already? But I mean, this is a great matchup for everyone on Portland, for McCollum, Dame, and Whiteside. And let's just say Dame is limited, which, given that they're trying to get this playoff push, I don't know what they'll do. But do you think Dame plays like more than 28 minutes, or where do you think he'll be at?
That feels about right, 25, 28. I don't think they'll need him to beat Washington on a back-to-back here and a West Coast road trip that they still haven't finished up. So, yeah, I think they'll take it easy. They sort of survived without him. They're playing with house money right now. If he's fully healthy, as I mentioned, they're one of the teams that's right in that scrum there. I think they're going to want him to be healthy. But I would expect within 2-3 games, we're seeing him play upwards of 35 minutes again.
So that's what I meant, is that typically when we see this, you see a team, they play a team that's not so great and horrible defensively, and probably is going to be probably a big favorite here in this matchup. The big thing is, well, if they're going to be up, does he really even play that much? I mean, he could play 20 minutes, 22 minutes, and that's going to be where you kind of get upset or get frustrated because he might not get there. So it's a gamble, I think. And if you want to go that way, I mean, you possibly can, because clearly Lillard is just an animal. But lower body injury, like I said before, doesn't guarantee that he'll play a lot. And that's a tough one. So
yeah. Here's their schedule. So they play Washington Wednesday. Friday they're in Phoenix. That's a winnable game with or without him. Saturday they're back home against Sacramento. Still a winnable game with or without him. And then they go Tuesday, they're hosting Phoenix. Thursday they host Memphis. Sunday they host Houston. Tuesday they host Minnesota. Thursday they host Dallas. And then they go on a 6-game road trip. So my guess is he'll test the waters tonight. I don't think we'll see him run into the ground on the back-to-back, but I think once we get to next Tuesday, for Phoenix, Memphis, Houston, that stretch, I think we'll see him back to 35 plus minutes. Is my guess.
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they should just shut Dame down for the rest of the season.
Where's the fun in that? Then you're gonna get your McCollum tilt on.
Yeah, nah. I mean, I'm just looking out for my boy Dame. I really like Dame, so yeah.
Do you know for his career he's averaged 36 minutes. His rookie year he played all 82 games and he had averaged 38.6 minutes per game.
He went to Weber State, right?
That was 8 years ago. Yes, he went to Weber State.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of Dame. I love his game, and I love how he stays committed to Portland. I do think they need to trade McCollum. I think they need to trade that whole team and shake it up and really just give something different to him. But I mean, I just feel that like New Orleans and Memphis are better teams than Portland right now. And so I just don't think that they really have a shot, in my opinion. But that's just me.
Just looking here. So the latest update came at 8 o'clock on Tuesday night. It says Damian Lillard. It's from Shams Charania, courtesy of RotoWorld. Says that Lillard targeting a Wednesday return. Looks like that's going to play out. He has not played since February 12th, but because of the All-Star break, he only missed 6 games. Gary Trent Jr. Will go back to the second unit, and CJ's usage will take a hit. Nothing besides.
Yeah, it should take a hit. Should take a big hit.
But yeah, we'll see. But man, I hate injuries. All right. Anything else other than Whiteside is going to have fun in this one?
Yeah, Whiteside's just gonna. I think. Wait, how much did Whiteside?
9,500 on DK. That's totally fair. In the last
61 last time against Washington. He's just gonna destroy them.
33 minutes. He was 8 of 14 from the field, 23 points, 21 rebounds, 5 blocks.
And the thing is that he's not even that much more than like Porzingis, Sabonis, Vucevic. I mean, 500, 1,000 for some of these guys, but still, it's just like, dude, he's gonna just destroy them.
It goes back to your point. Who do we have to pay for? Towns is out. Lillard's questionable. Tatum may or may not be back. And then where you're looking at Giannis, Doncic, Beal. Let's say Tatum's healthy. There's 4, and then it's Whiteside. So you really can pay up for him, and he is going to project as one of the better raw point guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they don't make it that difficult to try to make a decision of whether or not you should roster Whiteside. He should be over 10K in this matchup, in my opinion. But that's what we have to deal with. So, but he's gonna smash. I really think he's in a great spot.
All right, before we get on out of here, reminder of SuperDraft here. If you have not yet signed up, you can use the promo code OSMO with your first deposit, and that will get you, if it's a $100 deposit, that'll get you $20 from them in Super Cash, which is available for immediate use. Let's see. Jonas Valanciunas, a 1.35 multiplier. He's going to be in play. Hassan Whiteside at 1.2. He will be in play. You can only play one center, but you do have Zion at 1.55 yet again. Minutes concerns, but we'll have to see. Julius Randle in the mix, the 1.4 multiplier. Let's see. Who are some of the studs that get close to that? Doncic, if you map him out for about 57 points, he'll be right in there with those guys. You've got Karis LeVert with the 1.55 multiplier. Gets that matchup against Memphis. Memphis defense a little bit better. They still play fast. Who else? Oh, your guy Nas Reed. Can he do it 2 nights in a row? How about with a 1.85 multiplier, Chris?
Oh my God. I didn't even think about him tonight for SuperDraft, honestly. I was too fixated on Ayton or Jokic. I just didn't think anyone else was like worthy of being able to be rostered at that center position. But yeah, man, I mean, that guy's going off tonight. And I talked about Tice and I talked about PJ and like pivoting away from Lyles, which is obviously the right move tonight. If you did that, great job. But and like later on in the show, we talked about Nas Reed and we talked about Hernan Gomez. And we talked about how many shots Nas Reed took last game, and it's just like, okay, he's definitely okay if you want to go that way, but I'm not going to be too heavily invested in him. Sometimes I just need to listen to my own advice and go with Nas Reed, because if I had him right now, I'd be looking golden. But it's okay though. We learn from our mistakes.
That's why we play the slates.
Of course.
All right, gamers. With that, you can follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Randone. I am at EMac DFS, and of course, it is Osimo _COM. With that, gamers, good luck.